Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. Remember to follow at Barroom Network for all the breaking Bears news and coverage you need through this long off season. And remember, if you missed any of our previous episodes, the audio-only versions are on Spotify and iTunes. And hopefully you're watching live on YouTube right now. And feel free to chime in the comments section, get involved in the show. You can follow us on social media. Follow me at the Real 11 Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. A good evening to you, sir. How goes it?
Good evening to you. Good to see you. How you doing?
Nice to be seen, man. Well, doing great.
Good.
Living our best lives.
Absolutely.
I hope everyone is well as well. Welcome to Foster, of course, one of the regular barflies. We got a lot to cover on the show today. So we'll be talking a bit about the Bears offseason as Ryan Poles had some things to say about the future of Justin Fields, and he was drilled on the draft potential for the Bears, what to expect there, and then offseason free agency moves, things of that nature. We'll talk about the NFL as a whole as well. And Ross has a goblet of wine. Look at him. You, my friend. And we'll talk about the NBA. We'll talk about all manner of things, what we're watching, a few Emo Jimmy references throughout the show as well. Love that he made his comeback for sure. Surprises along the way, as usual. But we begin as we usually do. And again, feel free to chime in on the comments. If you have any questions for me or Ross, you can reach out through social media. But if you're watching live on YouTube, you might as well get involved on the show and post a question or two, and we'll do our best to answer the said questions. But like I alluded to, really, of course, the big headline is what these Chicago Bears are going to do with the number one overall pick, and not a lot has changed. I feel like it keeps getting more solidified as the weeks go on, what the Bears plan on doing with that number one pick. And like so many analysts and folks around the NFL think, we agree that they would really need just an insane haul to trade away from that number one pick. And I know some folks have hot takes about Drake May being even better than Justin Fields or not, Caleb Williams not being Justin Fields, Drake May being better than Caleb Williams and not being that first overall pick. It just looks more and more likely that the Caleb Williams is that number one overall choice for Chicago. He's dispelling these rumors about wanting to play. He nodded to Chicago's history, of course. And it would be great to play in a city like that. He really doesn't care where he gets played. I mean, where he ends up being drafted. I truly believe that. And Ryan Poles, currently still the quarterback one on the roster is Justin Fields. And with all these rumors swirling, you want to, I don't know, sort of maintain a relationship with these guys. And like Ryan Poles said, quote, he wants to do right by him. That will be important. And now there's even more rumors floating about Atlanta being the landing spot, Pittsburgh being the top landing spot for Justin. I feel like those are the top two teams that get mentioned the most. But what do you make of all this, Ross? And I don't know how often you check it. I feel like we have to, if we're on social media, see it every day. But what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm almost like to the point where you start refreshing the timeline every 10, 15 minutes to see if something has happened, any news has broken. I've been hearing some whispers from some other things I don't quite want to put out there publicly, but hearing some interesting information. But I think you kind of alluded to where all of this is likely heading as of this moment, which is the Bears are going to stay at that number one overall spot unless they get completely wowed by Washington, which
Sure.
Would probably take, 3 first-round picks. I don't think Washington is going to be able to get to that level. And they're going to trade Justin Fields sooner than later. We're at the combine right now, or they're at the combine right now. Ryan Poles is. He is meeting with Caleb Williams tonight, as is a host of other teams. But this is really the first face-to-face sit-down that he's able to have with Caleb. I think this is a very important meeting for those guys. And but also Ryan is meeting with a lot of other GMs and executives there. And this is where the framework of a Justin Fields trade starts to, take place. And so, I do believe him when he said he wants to do right by Justin. He wants to get this done pretty quickly. I do think that the framework will probably be put in place by the end of the weekend. Will we hear about it by then? Maybe not. But I do think by the time that free agency starts, second week of March, we're going to have a lot more information about where Justin Fields is going to go. And I agree with you. I think right now Atlanta would be the leader in the clubhouse. Some other dark horse teams, Raiders, ironically, even though Luke Getsy is there right now, former offensive coordinator.
Justin would be pissed.
Exactly. Steelers, dark horse team, right? Even a team like there's some guys with some free agents out there. What if Tampa Bay doesn't bring back Baker Mayfield, right? They decide they want to trade for Justin Fields. They're another dark team, in my opinion. Even a team like the Rams. How long is Matthew Stafford going to do this for? Maybe Justin comes into that situation as well. But I think the Falcons are the leader in the clubhouse right now. So a lot is still to come out of this. I think the in-person quarterback meetings with Drake May, with Caleb Williams, with Jaden Daniels are going to be very important. But as we sit right now, I think we're about 70% of the way there. Not to say that anything could happen, anything could change, but I think we're looking to a changing of the guard where Justin's going to get traded out of Chicago very soon, and Caleb Williams will be the first overall pick, and he will be coming to the Chicago Bears.
About 2 months away from the big decision time, but like you said, Ross, Justin Fields' future could certainly be determined before then. And in regard to Caleb Williams, the potential top overall pick, he arrived at the combine, which is going down. You get to see the fat guys doing the shuttle drill and bench pressing, and everybody for that matter. I mean, the quarterbacks ain't going to do that, but he's meeting with the Bears, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Jets, the Giants, and the Vikings. A few of those teams have no chance of seeing Caleb Williams, but Caleb Williams, again, talking about the Bears, said, quote, "If I get drafted by the Bears, I'll be excited. If they trade the pick and I get drafted by someone else, I'm just as excited," which is, the way you want to spin it at that point. I like those outlier teams, and I could see, him doing great things if he did fall into like the Rams offense, and you pair him with a Sean McVay, that'd be great. And there's something to be said with what Antonio Pierce is doing over in Las Vegas with the Raiders. I know Luke Getsy getting hired is pretty unusual. I feel like for how dismal the Bears offense was in spots last year, a couple years under his reign, but maybe they see something we don't. But Atlanta, him landing there, that's got some potential. Certainly not right away contenders with landing Justin Fields, but you get some building blocks there with Justin Fields, and certainly good young wide receiver group. Questions around offensive line, but you got a good, a good young running back there. Offense has some potential for sure. You got a favorite of those teams? You like Atlanta the most, or would any of those?
I actually, for his situation, I kind of like Pittsburgh a lot. I like the running game that they have there. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. I think those guys are a good 1-2 punch. I like the receivers that they have there as well. You got Deontay Johnson there. You've got Pickens there as well. You got a good tight end in Freiermuth. Justin knows he loves a tight end. But most importantly, the infrastructure that Mike Tomlin brings to the table. Here's a guy. He's a good seasoned veteran coach. He's a guy that's won a Super Bowl. He's a very even-keeled guy. And I like their defense as well. I think their defense, when healthy, obviously TJ Watt is there, Mika Fitzpatrick, and other guys like that. I think Pittsburgh would be the best fit. It's funny because Justin did say on the podcast not too long ago that Pittsburgh was one of his favorite places to play at. So I felt like he was also dropping a little bit of hints there. But obviously, Atlanta's home to him. He grew up right outside Atlanta, and he would be able to play, at least his home games indoors on a turf, which really showcase his speed. You mentioned a Sean McVay offense with the Rams. Zach Robinson's bringing that offense to Atlanta. He's the new offensive coordinator for them. Raheem Morris is the new head coach. Obviously, Raheem Morris was the defensive coordinator last year for the Rams. So it would be a very similar offense. They got weapons too, right? They drafted Bijan Robinson last year, top 10 overall. He's a dynamic athlete. They need to find a way to get Kyle Pitts going. He's another top 10 draft pick. Drake London is another high draft pick as well. So I like the fit as well for Atlanta. I think Justin would be really best served going to one of those two spots. I would like to see him out of the NFC and maybe into the NFC. Into the AFC. But if he's in Atlanta, listen, I'm a big Justin fan, as everybody knows. I wish him nothing but the best. None of this is personal. It comes down to, we talked about this for at length for months now. Absolutely. This has to do with, performance on the field versus contract situations and resetting rookie scales. It's all business oriented stuff. And that's why we're seeing the changing of the guard here. But I would love to watch him on the Red Zone channel every Sunday and see him to continue to grow into a dynamic quarterback. And I do think that Atlanta or Pittsburgh would be good spots for that.
Yeah, to see him continue to grow is what Ryan Poles touched on. You want to see his future continue to be a prosperous one as an NFL quarterback, and it just makes a lot of sense with Atlanta, but any of these other teams could be great suitors for Justin. And, again, we've talked ad nauseum about his relationship with the Bears. And I feel like, in recent memory, we've seen a lot of talented players just go from the Bears on to just have a refreshing start to their careers. Just look at the most recent case in Roquan Smith, who got the bag and then he's immediately in a top contender in the AFC. Obviously in the conversation of the best interior linebackers in the league. Outside of Justin, and Ryan Poles, again, was deflecting a lot of the Justin Fields talk today as he just, he was like, spoiler alert, I don't have a master plan that I'm revealing to you all today as far as, what's happening at number one overall and what's happening with Justin. But we know we want to do right by Justin. McFact saying that the best spot for Fields is with the Bears. There's still that camp, man, where a lot of people, and the big stat that was floating around was comparing his numbers to Lamar Jackson's, who won the MVP and certainly had some upside to the season as far as Justin, despite inconsistencies along the line and inconsistencies with his coaching. You just want him to get in the best system possible. PZ saying, please tell us what Poles has said that would lead anyone to believe they know what he is going to do, not what they think he is going to do. Ooh, I see what you did there. But outside of Justin Fields, again, we're looking at Jalen Johnson potentially getting an extension, which needs to be locked down. You think the way he played at an all-pro level this past season. But what are the other big, off-season concerns for you, Ross? Obviously, offensive line. We talked about what the Bears want to do with that number 9 overall pick and what they want to do in potentially free agency. Some names have been floated out there to sign a tackle or guard or center, now that they've made the cap space now to Eddie Jackson and Cody Whitehair out the picture, getting some vets out and hopefully bringing some youth in. I think, the right side is looking pretty good right now, but you want to help the blind side out. You want, a nice captain of that O-line in the middle there to an anchor, if you will. You look at the potential wide receiver help. We talked about Brock Bowers' potential at tight end, but yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think, what you're looking for maybe in the combine as well.
Yeah, I think you hit on the head at the top there. The big thing is, he has said throughout, even after the trade deadline, into the end of the season, into the offseason, Jalen Johnson is not going anywhere. And I truly believe him when he says that. I don't even think they're going to need their franchise tag for that. I think they're going to be able to get this deal done sooner than later. Franchise tag right now for cornerbacks would be at $20 million a year. I actually think that's a pretty good number for Jalen to be slotted in at if you were to sign him for an extension. So you might as well give him the money that he's looking for. He's going to want more guaranteed money than some of the top corners on the market. Guys like Denzel Ward, guys like Jair Alexander. Those are your top paid corners right now. So I think if you pay him a little bit more on the guarantee, you can actually get that cap hit down a little bit. You use a little bit more cap space for these offseason to fill in some holes. I do think that deal gets done sooner than later. You mentioned the big one, offensive line. I think they're fine with their tackles. I think they're going to roll with Braxton Jones. Obviously, Darnell Wright was a first-round pick last year. He's going to be a starting right tackle for a long time. They've got a problem on the interior side of that line, right? They released Cody Whitehair. He was cooked. He was done. Was not good anymore. Nate Davis didn't really have a solid season last year either. You're going to have to kind of rebuild that whole middle, right? They have problems at center. I think the number one guy on their free agent list to bring in is Lloyd Cushenberry, 26-year-old center from the Denver Broncos. This guy has been an outstanding player over the last couple of years. Denver has got some cap issues right now. They spent a lot of money last year on Mike McGlinchey, right tackle, coming from the 49ers to the Broncos. I firmly believe that he is going to be their number one target in free agency, because you get a guy like that, a good, solid veteran center that can anchor your offensive line. Then you can kind of look in the draft. You can fill in, if you find an interior guy, maybe second or third round to play with him and Tevin Jenkins. You can still address guard again in free agency. But again, it goes back to if you're drafting a rookie quarterback first overall, you definitely want a guy in front of him that's able to help him call out the signals, a good veteran center who's going to be able to get everybody in place. That is a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry. So I firmly believe they're going to go after him. And I would not be surprised if they went after another edge guy as well. There's a lot of edge guys out there available. I think that they would like to bookend somebody next to Montez Sweat, and allows them the flexibility in the draft at number 9 to go BPA, go best player available. And, one thing I'll give you guys one little thing I have been hearing is if there's a deal that would come to fruition, Justin Fields to Atlanta, it will likely involve, maybe a couple third round picks and a pick swap of the Bears going from 9 to 8, which would put them a little bit ahead, maybe in Malik Neighbors, Roman Duze territory.
For sure. I think it also, like you touched on, there's just so much edge talent that it would be nice to, outside of the top 3 guys like, Josh Allen and Daniel Hunter, that there's still some potential for guys that they could fill a need and help out with Montez Sweat, who's going to be, commanding a lot of double teams this next season as the paid guy, but like a Bryce Huff from the Jets potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, the offensive line certainly needs to be addressed, but I think, the offseason is good in that, as far as free agency is concerned, it's good to kick the tires on these guys, but it's nice to get a unit that is just growing together. When you think about the right side, like we've talked about, and Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright, if you go center, if you keep Braxton Jones, he's still relatively new too. But if you look at the left guard and center positions that are really up in the air, then a cohesive unit to work, and grow together. Hopefully, with whoever they're blocking for and paving the lanes for at this point. But I don't know. Are you excited for the combine? Is it set in yet? Anybody going to light it up? You going to watch it? Watch the 40-yard dash?
It is. I love guys. It's workout and short season, right? This is listen. I love sitting down on the sofa over the weekend and watching these guys. We're in such a golden era right now of the sport. I think is at its highest peak of dynamic athletes. Guys like Latu, and some of these other defensive guys. These guys are saying in their interviews they're going to run like 4.3, 4.4 40s, which is just insane to me. Those are faster 40 times than like what DJ Moore has ran, right? Who's your number 1 wide receiver. So, I'm excited to see like Dallas Turner. If the Bears do go edge, Jared Verse is a big name. Chop Robinson is a big name as well. So Matt LaFleur still is a defensive coach, obviously at heart. So a lot of these defensive guys are there. I want to see the wide receivers. I want to see how fast some of these guys run, right? We know Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be out there with good reason. He is the number 1 overall prospect in the NFL draft. He doesn't need to do a goddamn thing this weekend to further solidify that. But It's going to give us an opportunity. This is one of the deepest this is one of the deepest wide receiver drafts we've had in a very, very long time. So it's going to give a lot of those guys underneath Marvin and Duze and Neighbors an opportunity to really shine and show who they are, and show their speed and show their athleticism as well. But yeah, of course, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to also see some of the lower level quarterbacks throw. Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy is going to throw, right? Some of these guys, those guys need it, right? And we know Jaden Daniels has the potential, in my opinion, to be last year's Anthony Richardson. I think we all remember Anthony Richardson was right around a middle to late first round pick last year, explodes during the combine. He's a freakish talent, and he ends up going top 10 to the Colts. Jaden Daniels is already solidified as that third quarterback, but could he make it past Drake May? Could he jump Drake May, with the combine, if he has a freaky athletic performance? Those are the things that I'm looking for.
The combine could only help his case with Jaden Daniels, and I feel like just Drake May, it's kind of the North Carolina quarterback curse is to me, just like the conference you play in only does so much for. I get it, you play Clemson and the like that, but it just doesn't appeal like an SEC quarterback to me. It's that might be just my opinion. But fast, it's 40 time, man. We've seen, John Ross, recent memory, it was what a 4.22, something like that. I mean, to see someone break that would be unreal. There's a kid from Iowa who's rumored to maybe a cornerback who I was just reading about might go there. But there's also, just as far as just amount of picks, you mentioned like JJ McCarthy, Michigan has so many prospects.
37 guys there, I think.
Yeah, it was in the 30s when I saw that. Unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm curious to see, JJ McCarthy, who's no slouch, who's a local kid too, where he would end up, and hopefully not holding a clipboard. Hopefully he could make some noise as a potential starting quarterback somewhere. But we just didn't see a ton of it from Michigan. It was just such a loaded team overall. I feel like they were able to, just run the football whenever they wanted and lean on a really great defense. But don't sleep on JJ, and maybe squeaking his way into the top 20.
Absolutely. I look at a guy like JJ McCarthy. I start looking at could the Minnesota Vikings be a fit for him? Could the Raiders be a fit for him? I think the Broncos are a very interesting team for him, and he's fighting, to me, for that third, not really third, that fourth, that QB4 spot right now. It's gonna be him, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. Right? And Penix, the knock with him is he's got all the talent. The guy he's had 2 torn ACLs in his career. And that's something that you don't really want to hit your hat to, going into a rookie. But Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is, when you hear that phrase "game manager" thrown out there, that is usually what JJ McCarthy is. But here's his opportunity to show people that he is more than that. That he is more than just handing the football off to Blake Corum and tossing the ball to 8 or 9. 8 or 9 yards and letting his receivers do the rest. And we talk a lot about Justin Fields and Atlanta being, a fit together. And for whatever reason, Atlanta doesn't think that they can land Fields, or the price gets too much. JJ McCarthy could be a fit for them as well there at pick number 8. So a lot's got to come out from this combine. I think where we're at today versus where we'll be at on Sunday, we're going to have a lot more, a lot clearer picture on a lot of these prospects in terms of where they're going to start to be slotted in, and then where some of these other quarterbacks are going to go. Fields, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson. A lot of these guys need to find homes in the next couple weeks.
No question. Tooch, welcome, Tooch. What's up, fellow barroom host on the program?
Fellow gambling junkie, my guy Tooch has got the great betting tips if you follow him on Twitter.
That's right. Facts. Tooch posed the question, what do you guys feel are the Bears' biggest potential needs this offseason? So as we mentioned positionally, I you really got to build it in the trenches. I think Montez Sweat was a huge home run. Even on a short season, you see what you're going to get from a guy like that. But if you can put someone on the edge who doesn't break the bank, whether it be one of these young guys out of the draft or one of the free agents we mentioned, that would really do wonders for him. But, as Ross talks about repeatedly, you look at the Eagles of the world, and certainly Miami, just how loaded they were with talent. Even the Rams. You just want a lot of good skill position players. So Roman Dudesy certainly seems like a good guy in the top 10 to go after. I mean, every time I watch more tape from this guy, it's just more and more impressive. But you're certainly pretty set. I feel like it's one of the first times in years we can say at the secondary, even with the departure of Eddie Jackson. I'm not missing Eddie Jackson. You're pretty set with the Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon, and Jalen Johnson if you lock him down. Jaquan Brisker, you look really solid back there. So if you can just increase the pass pressure, hopefully with a new fresh start for this defense, that would be wonderful. I think linebackers were pretty solid, but yeah, what do you think, Ross? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I to me, because you watch the playoffs, you watch the Super Bowl. Obviously, dynamic quarterback won the Super Bowl, but you need talent on the outside. So wide receiver to me becomes the biggest need. I want somebody else opposite DJ Moore that the defenses are going to have to pay attention to. It's going to have to come in the draft. So I think, Malik Neighbors, Roman Duze, I'm looking at the list for there. But then after that, it is interior offensive line. They need a new center bad, and they need another pass rusher opposite Montez Sweat. So in that order, to me, receiver, interior line, defensive end, pass rusher.
For sure. We've talked at length about the NFL. Ross, anything else that you've had some hot takes on with this long off season just beginning, and you're ready to see the fat guys running shorts and all the good stuff go down in Indy? I feel like I would love to go to the combine at some point, or just like or a Senior Bowl, something like that. It would be fun. Obviously, we're not accredited, so we couldn't really go down to the combine necessarily, but.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to go 1 year when I was working at Bleach Report. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. At the very least, Indianapolis, if you've ever been to that city, it's a beautiful city, but it's a small city. So it's a
great.
town. Yeah, it's a town where you have all these NFL minds all converging on one small town. You're going to run into people all the time. You're going to see guys like Andy Reid and Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen and Bill Belichick, and they're just hanging out in a bar, in a hotel, or in a steakhouse or something like that. And a lot of these guys are very personable. They don't mind you coming up to them and chatting with them and talking football and ball and stuff like that with them. So for as much as we like what's going to happen on the combine, it's also an opportunity for all these guys to converge on the league, probably for the only time in a year. And they're able to all be in the same place with each other and really talk shop. And like I said, this is where a lot of these trades come to fruition, a lot of these free agent deals, all the agents are in town and stuff too. All this stuff really starts to get worked out between right now through the end of Sunday. So if you start to hear some rumblings about guys being traded and some deals, remember last year was the same time that we knew by now, February 27th, Adam Schefter told us that the Bears were trading the first overall pick. He said, look, they're moving out of this spot. So we knew that already 1 year ago. So I really do think by the end of this weekend, we're going to have a much clearer picture on what happens between Fields and the first overall pick.
It'd be a whole different mindset come next week. That's for sure. When we do this show again, let's switch topics, Ross. This just popped up. I don't, and the local tip. I don't want to talk about the Bulls and them and their injury bug and losing to the lowly Pistons last night. That team is just abysmal. But it's been floated around as far as college basketball is concerned, which I don't watch any of really until towards the end of the season, which is a lot more conference play and things have sort of solidified there. But just on and I also saw that the college football playoff was going to expand to potentially, a 14-team playoff, which would just be nuts. I mean, 12 alone is a lot in college football when you think you take 4 of those teams are really just throwaways, just that you put in there. But I suppose anything is possible, and we've seen it before, that's for sure. And then it's quote unquote more fair. But adding more teams to, I know Jay Billis was really hating on this, but expanding the current NCAA tournament. Do you have any thoughts on that as far as it goes? I mean, I see where he's coming from. And I see the proponents for it and why they're really gung-ho on it, and it's sort of unavoidable with the money to be made, but it's just it kind of taint a good thing when how many more play-in games and how many more teams can you add to here to have your next potential Cinderella. It's just nuts.
It is nuts. It's too much. I'm old school. I like the team of 64. I didn't even like the play-in that gets you to the 64 and stuff like that. So I don't need any more teams outside of that. It's already a pain in the ass too for me to try and find. Every year I do the thing where I'm like somebody's grandpa and I'm looking like what channel is True Network or True TV and TBS versus TNT and what game is here and what game is there. Thankfully, actually, this year it's all going to be streaming on Max. So shout out to Max. They don't pay me for this. They should. But if you want to cut me a check, Max, because I'm shouting you out. So now you can just click the box on the streaming thing and go to whichever game you want to and not have to try and look for all these channels.
Oh, I did not know. That's a pro tip, getting ahead of March Madness, which is almost upon us. Yeah, I like it. This is throwing a wrench in everything, but we should probably address this. This is Ross's specialty with Puff Daddy. Who calls him Puffy Daddy, first of all? Is this about Meek Mill's relationship with all the sexual assault allegations against the female stars? Ross, field this one.
Thoughts and prayers to everybody involved.
Love it.
Thoughts and prayers to everybody involved.
Did you see Jimmy Butler's music video for Fall Out Boy?
I saw clips of it. I did not know Fall Out Boy was still making music. So shout out to Fall Out Boy.
Billy Joel just came out with a song recently, and he hasn't come out with a song in 30 years. What the fuck is going on?
That's right. He performed it at the Grammys. Yeah,
pretty unbelievable. I did enjoy that. Yeah, you all in on the NBA at this point? Bulls aside, you enjoying
I'm starting to get there. I thoroughly enjoy the weekend games that they have. So they'll do the Saturday night games. They'll do the Sunday games. That's usually what I really lock into that. The games are in a week. I'm indifferent about those, but you could tell the players start to ramp up a little bit more on these weekend games. They had some good ones last week. They had Bucks on. They had Lakers Suns last week. I think we're at the point right now where I think guys are going to start to get healthy and ramp up for the playoffs. Right now, you've got it's kind of a two-team race right now. You got on the East, you got the Celtics, who've got the best record in basketball. They're rolling right now. They're absolutely outstanding. They're the best three-point shooting team in the league. They are absolutely crushing teams. Porzingis has been a hell of a addition to that situation. And then you got on the West, it feels like it's just old faithful. Like Jokic is proving why he's the best player in the NBA night in and night out. And, this guy is a walking triple-double. He makes every single guy in his team better. He absolutely just steamrolls teams. But don't sleep on the Clippers. I think the Clippers are really good. So, for me, I'm excited for the playoffs to get started. I think we got about 24, 25 games left. A lot of teams still jockeying for position. You got guys like Steph Curry and the Warriors who might even be in the play-in game, right, with the Lakers. And so with Kevin Durant, some of the older guys.
A little rough outside the Clippers. It was rough for a while there. But in the Western Conference, look at the upstart young Minnesota Timberwolves. They're tied with OKC at the top of the heap there. And Pelicans, if Zion can remain healthy, certainly seems like a big glue guy for them to make some noise. But the East, it just feels like it's the same old hat where it just goes through Boston and Milwaukee, and then Miami could make a run too, no matter where they're at. With the Sixers, they'll just wonder what could be with Embiid out for an extended period of time. Bulls almost in that play-in game position though at the 9 seed. Oh baby, we got Pat Williams out and Zach LaVine out though. That's not good. That bench they're pulling. Ross, you and I could probably try out. I mean, they certainly have the. We would fit the salary at least requirement for what they would need at some point. They got to be pulling guys out of the G League at this point to be, even competing against Detroit. That was just abysmal.
It's rough. They were like 2 for 26 last night from 3-point land. You could tell
record pad from 3-point land. Yeah,
guys are exhausted. Kobe White has tired legs. DeRozan has tired legs. Caruso's now out tonight, so now he's not even going to play versus the Cavs. So the Bulls right now, it's a mess. They should have blown it up at the trade deadline, but unfortunately, this is what this is what poor management, poor ownership looks like.
Yeah. very much so. Let's go to some other quick hits as we wrap up the show. Have you watched Shogun? Shogun with a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I am actually looking forward to probably starting that up tonight after you and I are done. I have been excited, eagerly awaiting that. FX, as we know, puts out quality content in TV shows, but I feel like this is their first like big spectacle, spending Game of Thrones type money for a show.
Yeah.
So I'm all in. I'm old enough to remember watching the original Shogun in school. Anytime like the substitute teacher came in and he was like some hungover dude for history class or whatever, and he would just pop on Shogun, which is like 10 hours of content. So that's my introduction to Shogun, was the original. But I'm excited to watch this. This is I'm looking for a new show to watch. You know, I finished True Detective Night Country. I finished Griselda. I finished Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I finished Vince Staples' show. All I would recommend all of those shows, by the way. So Shogun is starting right on time. I can't wait.
True Detective getting renewed for a 5th season. Just I feel like even before the finale, which was a pretty solid finale. I enjoyed it. It still had that sci-fi feel to it, but good writing overall, and you know, the callbacks to previous True Detectives. I loved it. Jodie Foster and the other actor, young lady's name as the lead detective were really great. That it was just really raw acting in that last episode. But the main director and writer for this season will come back in season 5, which is exciting.
Issa Lopez, her name. Yep.
Issa Lopez, thank you. But you know, you touched on Vince Staples' show, and you know, we love his music, and he's had a little bit of a touch into TV here and there. You know, he like would guest star in what was that show on Abbott Elementary, and you know, he would come in and you know, in what's the other show, Insecure, certain appearances like that. But we know he would write too, and he's always wanted to do more TV. So what'd you think of the show overall?
I enjoyed it. It was 5 episodes that went super fast. They're about 20 minutes an episode. Very Atlanta-like. And he said that he did talk to Donald Glover a lot leading up to making this show, but it's got some Jordan Peele into it as well. So it's got a lot of Get Out and Us and stuff like that in it. Especially there's a carnival episode where he kind of goes to the carnival with his girlfriend and her 2 younger siblings. And I thought that was very Jordan Peele-like, that episode. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know he has been championing at Netflix to extend it, give him more episodes, and I think they should. Listen, I'm all in for. I'm not, as a person that isn't the traditional comedy fan. I don't like the sitcoms and How I Met Your Mothers and King of Queens and things of that nature. Right, the laugh track shows. I enjoy an alternative comedy, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Atlanta, like we talked about. Those kind of shows. So I'm all in. I enjoyed it. It's a good, just like I said, quick 20 minutes, pop it on. And shout out to Vince. You know, anytime you see, he's a super talented guy. He's very smart, very charismatic. And I like seeing guys like that with a lot of talent, especially in hip hop, being able to transition into something else.
Yeah, and you touched on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is in its final season, and very sad to hear about Richard Lewis that passed away at 76 years old. I mean, he, you know, you could tell they're all a bit older after like the primes of their careers when they started this, you know, 20 some years ago on HBO. But you know, Richard Lewis looked a little worse for wear, but still hilarious in this season so far. Only, you know, 3 or 4 episodes in. But great career. You know, he had his struggles with alcoholism. He'd been sober for something like 20, 30 years, something like that as well. Just an eminently funny human being. As Larry David said, his quote, I don't have it in front of me. I'll look it up while you remark about it. But it just basically talked about him being his best friend. They were born, you know, just minutes within each other, and just best friends for so long, growing up in New York together, and just a very sad day for comedy and Larry David.
Very sad day. Amazing actor, though. I mean, huge IMDb. You know, obviously he was in, you know, as far back as Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is a classic movie. You talked about alcoholism. He was actually in Leaving Las Vegas, which I think was very much a parallel to that situation. The Cage movie where he won an Academy Award for a guy addicted to alcohol. But obviously we all remember him mostly over the last 15, 20 years from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just a great comic. He's also in BoJack Horseman for a little bit too, but great comic. Yeah, the whole cast of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm glad that he got to at least go out still being at the top of his game in one of the funniest shows of all time.
Yeah, no question. When we lost Super Dave Osborne, who played Marty Funkhauser too, before he could finish it too, you can only imagine how funny it would be. But adding Vince Vaughn as his brother was pretty hilarious. But the quote was really great. And I'm sorry, Richard and I, quote, were born 3 days apart in the same hospital, and for most of my life, he's been like a brother to me. He had that rare combination of being the funniest person and also the sweetest. But today he made me sob, and for that I'll never forgive him. Which was a very appropriate ending there. Back to our comedy, Ross. You mentioned carnivals. When was the last carnival you went to?
Ooh, I feel like it probably was pretty recently.
Gotta see coming out. That's for sure.
Huh? Yeah, my
gotta see come out when we're here in Chicago.
yeah, my wife is a big carnival fan, so we try and frequent carnivals. Not a lot in the city, obviously, but we'll go out to the suburbs.
Date night.
Yeah, date night. Creepy, right? Creepy. Especially, I think carnivals always make for a good horror.
Ride the tilt-a-whirl with me, Ross.
Yes, that is something I won't do. That is puke fest waiting to happen.
Yeah, any of those rides are sketchy. We would go in Wisconsin a lot. To like the Walworth County Fair and shit.
You'll catch me paying $20 for some cheap game where I can get like a $5 stuffed animal in return for winning.
Sports Chicago style, shouting out the Shoe Carnival.
Yes, rest in peace, Shoe Carnival. That doesn't exist anymore.
Peace Shoe Carnival. That's a good place to end it. Let's get out of here, Ross. Thanks to everybody for watching on YouTube and chiming in. The Barflies, we appreciate it. If you missed any of this episode, the audio only version will be on Spotify, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell a friend or two. Spread the word. And it will be on YouTube as well if you want to see our faces. Follow me at the Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. Follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network, as we'll have a lot of Bears coverage. Follow Tooch's show, of course, and then for your gambling tips. You running your gambling show back anytime soon, Ross?
We're gonna pick it back up. We're gonna take some time off, lick our wounds. Last year was a very up and down ride, but we will pick it back up as the season comes back again. I'll still shout out some stuff. I've been having some success on NBA, so I'll start to shout some stuff up again on Twitter. If anybody, yeah, absolutely.
NBA futures would be nice. Come on, baby. We're liking the Thunder more and more as I go back to the young guns.
Yeah.
Stay safe as well. Foster, thank you. We say deuces for now, everybody. Be good to each other. So long.
Peace.